You know what's interesting about teaching you about Norway and the UK tonight? And I'm not bragging, but it was like 85 degrees here in Los Angeles today. It has not been that warm most of the winter, so don't get jealous. We almost floated away a couple weeks ago. I feel like a lot of you are living in Norway or the UK, or maybe you feel like, I live in Boston, but I feel like I'm living in a fjord in Norway. So I just want to say it's cold where a lot of you are. I'm sensitive to that. Welcome into Gem Journey. A lot of you, Jeanette was commenting that she's got ancestry here. A lot of you have. I have a little UK ancestry, tiny bit, little Scottish on my mom's side. My mom, actually, we don't really know because we don't really know. My mom's ancestry is a little bit of a mixed bag, but we know for sure there's a little Scottish, and there's lots of blonde hair, blue eyed people on that side of the family, which is how Zoe ended up with the genes that she has to have blonde hair and blue eyes. My daughter and my son were both like towheads when they were babies, and all my Greek relatives were like Adina, But then on my Greek side, there's Romanian, and some of them were blonde and blue-eyed. So you can't just look at it, I'm not saying that blonde hair, blue-eyed people are all from Norway, but I'm just saying like there's a little bit of like that blood which allowed those recessive genes to emerge. And me having no children with olive skin or brown eyes, which is totally fine. My kids are beautiful and perfect. But I'm just saying Olive Dave's, my ex-husband's Irishness, which is like half of him, got completely triggered by my little bit of Scotch ancestry, Scottish. So yeah, and I think we do have a date for the last class in February. So hi, Cersei, she will update you. I can't believe it's our last class, but there is a new program coming on the heels of Gem Journey, which I'm really excited about. We are doing our own, for the first time, Certified Crystal Healer program. And I was just talking to Rachel, who's here in the room with me, along with this gentleman over here. And I was like, God, there's so much to get to tonight because I'm talking about the UK and Norway in 2 hours or 3 hours. And I will just say, if we don't get to readings tonight, I will make that up to you in February. I don't know if we can fully get to it tonight. It's just this week is kind of jam-packed. But I promise you, if we don't get to the readings this evening, I will get to them later because I want to do really good justice to the content tonight and not rush through it. So I probably will do a separate session of crystal readings for you to catch you up. So Crystal Masters, and this is a good question. A lot of you have asked, hey, Athena, why would you do a certified crystal healer program? Isn't that what Crystal Masters was? Crystal Masters was a class on crystals. Still, I think one of my best teachings ever, but it was not a certified crystal healer program. And this process, which I've never done, is not going to be redundant. I'm not going to teach. I never repeat my content. I think I've been with you for 15 years. I don't think I've really repeated anything. In fact, Gem Journey was completely out the box, right? We've never really gone back to the origin story of the planet and brought you to more or less present day, right? This was something of if I wasn't a historian, I couldn't have done this class because it's been Herculean to bring it to you. I'm really proud I brought it to you for $29 a month because it was like the amount of research and time and energy that this class has taken has paralleled anything else that I've ever brought you, honestly. This is PhD level stuff. And it has absolutely kicked my ass, but it's also really been interesting. And I'm so glad I did it because now that I'm going in front of a national audience this week and teaching about crystals, it helps me to know the actual history of our planet. For probably one of my final teaching efforts in the world of crystals, because I've written the 2 best-selling books on crystals, right? Crystalpedia and Crystal Lore, Legends, and Myths. So I was like, what can I do to capstone that as a teacher and really like put a pin in it? And so there are going to be different levels of my certified crystal healer program, which again, I've never done before. It's not going to repeat what we've done already. And then there will be, if you're new to, if you've never taken a gem class with me, like you guys would qualify. I think we're talking about level 2 because you've taken a year-long class. If you took Crystal Masters and this, then the top level is going to be level 3. So if you've already taken 2 years with me, then you'll get into level 3, which will be an induction. So there'll be one class where everybody is, and then the separate levels we're talking about would have an additional induction, a couple of seminars you'd have to take. I burn myself cooking. And I don't mean to keep saying that, but people keep asking what's wrong with your arm. I picked up my frying pan. I was roasting garlic, and Zoe called me, and I turned around, and I literally went ding right into my arm. And then it hurt so bad. I went like this, and I actually ended up hitting it again. Anyway, all this information for you to say, I'm about to bring you probably one more crystal class. And then maybe after that, my teaching will move in a different direction. So we will keep you posted. It's going to come on the heels of the end of Gem Journey. So after this class is over, there will be one more crystal experience for you to have. And then after that, I think I probably have given you everything crystal-wise I need to give you, unless you can think of something, which I'm open to it. You know what I mean? I'm a lifelong learner, but I feel like I've kind of scratched every itch, except I've never actually trained certified crystal healers. So it will not surprise you, Jeanette, to tell you that I made my own aloe vera. The fact that it's this healed is my under eye magic, under eye balm, which I combined with aloe vera gel and alchemized in my kitchen. So I made my own burn balm, and I cannot believe it's healed and doesn't hurt, because it was actually a really bad burn. And then somebody asked me, can you make it for us? And I'm like, I didn't measure anything, but it absolutely healed my arm. So I'm here with you. I'm glad you love Gem Journey. Gem Journey, by the way, has been one of my favorite classes of all time. And I don't think tonight's going to be any different, because tonight is actually going to be this unifying experience where we make sense of Norse and Viking history. Again, remember, I don't have 8 hours, so I'm going to do everything I can. But my attempt tonight, which feels somewhat intellectually superhuman, is to unify the history of Norway and the Viking history with the history of the United Kingdom, which is actually connected to the formation of Norway, to make sense of the legends of Avalon. I mean, again, like, holy fucking shit. And then to bring all of that together to connect to both the essential oils that come from the region and the stones from the region, which are Pressily Bluestone. If you did not get the tools, I don't know if we have any left. But this is Thulite from Norway and Pressily Bluestone from Wales. So if you have these in your collection and you did not get the tools, please go get them out of your crystal healing tray. Team SG, it would be great. I forgot to ask. If we have any Thulite in stock or any Pressily Bluestone, could they pop it up to the top of, Robin probably did, but just in case, and just in case anybody Rachel's here with me, but in case anybody on the ground is watching, if we have any more Thulite or any more Pressily Bluestone, in case anybody wanted it, it would be good to pop it up. And then the oils, which are unique to the region too. And so we're going to talk about the oils tonight as well, which is oak moss and juniper berry, which I've never combined those two together before. But if you are not grounded, and what would I say about this blend? If you're not grounded, if you don't feel connected to your own magic, even if you don't have ancestry in this region, I think this could be a really powerful experience for you. I'm going to do the best I can tonight. Like I said, I just told Rachel before we started, I literally could spend 8 hours on this content tonight. There are 5 full pages of notes, plus maps, plus a little bit of I sent one more thing to the printer, Rachel, just so you know.
Was it the poem?
Yes, it's a poem.
I got it.
It's yeah. So that's coming. Do you have any questions before we start? Isn't it beautiful? Next month's oils, by the way, completely different. Last of our oil blends for you. Patchouli, oud, and ylang ylang, which all come from Indonesia. So next month, we're going to go from like frigid, Arctic, what it feels like in Boston right now, or Philadelphia, or Indianapolis, or Chicago, We're going to go from that feeling down to like subtropical paradise. Humidity, warmth, connection. So, and those tools are alive at sagegoddess.com. Circe's got all the 411. She's got your discount code. She's got all that information for you. It's a little loud in my ear, just so you know, on the computer, just because it is a little distracting. Sorry. Okay. You need warmth. I know. It's literally everybody. I hesitate because we were so cold here in LA for a while, and now we're like back to warm temperatures. So I'm sending you a little bit of warmth from LA. Hopefully that's reaching you tonight. I don't know. I've asked the team, Dark Sister, if we could keep the perfume blends in stock. I've asked Hanalei. I don't know. So I will reiterate the message. Circe's here. If we can bubble that up and just see if some of these oil combinations could be perpetual. And then my question to you is, maybe the reason we haven't, I don't know, I haven't heard this feedback back from the team, but maybe the reason we haven't is we don't know what to call them. Do you want it to be called UK Norway? Do you want it to be called like something around the energy? You know what I mean? I don't know. Would you rather have it that way? I personally would rather have a larger bottle of each one that's just called what it is. So I will reiterate that request to our design team and see if we can make it happen for you. And then the other thing is an invitation to you. Like if you have juniper berry and if you have, right, oak moss, maybe it's an invitation to you to play with yours, because here's what I'm going to tell you, right? There's different juniper berries and they smell slightly different. And I don't know like which one you would appreciate more. When it comes, the farther north, the juniper trees grow, the more kind of bitter the berry essence is. And so some people like the super northern, which is more Norway, right? The sharper juniper berries, and some people like the UK juniper berries, which are a little like rounder and softer and more full bodied. It's kind of like wine, if that makes sense. And part of it is how long those berries spend under ice, under snow. So the longer they're buried under ice, the sharper they get, and the less time they spend under ice, which is your UK Welsh. Anybody have Welsh ancestry? Yeah, and there is 5,000% a student code, and Circe will share it with you here because but sometimes it's the same as the public code and sometimes it's different. So that's why she's your guide. So just look for the blue. It says Circe Mac. She will put all the stuff in the feed for you that you need. Yep. I'm glad. Yeah. So this is my, I'm turning 53 this year. Sage Goddess is turning 15. I don't anticipate that I'll stop teaching anytime soon. But I have thought about not teaching specifically about crystals anymore. But what I was sharing with my students, and I've shared it with you last month, it's actually some of my, it's other crystal shops that have asked me, hey, could you please teach a crystal healer class before you stop teaching? And I was like, this is cool, to come from people who have been in this industry forever. And now that I'm going global this week, I hope you'll follow me. So a lot of you may not know, but I've been posting about it a lot. I accepted a position. I'm not leaving Sage Goddess, but I have become the gem and mineral expert for Shop LC, which is a global television shopping network. One of my friends and clients in Australia was like, did you know I can watch it on TV live? So I'll be live Central Time, Texas time from 10 to 12 this week on Thursday. You got to find the channel that's local to you, and we'll put a link up for you too, which tells you how to find where it is. And then Friday night I'll be live again globally for the first time. And so I think a lot of the customers on Shop LC are going to want to learn more. And I'm like, this would be a cool time to bring a crystal healer program forward. And again, if they're brand new, they can start at level 1. You guys are not brand new. So we will honor the level that you are coming from. Yay. Circe, is that when you say watch here, is that the Shop LC link? Or is there something, that probably is. What she just posted is probably the Shop LC link, but I want to just make sure. So it'll give you kind of, if that's the link, it's going to show you where it's going to be playing live and how you can watch together. I'm really excited. Okay, thank you for that. So yeah, so if you've had an Arctic blast in the last week, I just want to say I see you. I know it's been a lot for you guys. And so maybe maybe feeling this last blast of winter. As you know, next weekend is in bulk. I'll be live with my Living Sanctuary students. I think it's Monday. Is
Monday.
Yep. Which I think technically is the 2nd of February, but it's right, still right on time. So Imbolc is the midway point between winter and spring. So I think this is probably our last big kind of Arctic blast, I'm hoping. Okay, and then UK, Norway, Circe's telling us we still have full sets, stone only or perfume only available at sagegoddess.com. And again, your code, Circe's got your code in the feed and everything else that you need. Do you have any questions before we start? I'm really excited for tonight. I know it's been a lot. A lot of my mentorship students this year live on the Eastern Seaboard or in Canada. Every time we meet them, and I just watch them like increasingly have more clothing on. So my heart and soul are with you. And then I promise we're gonna warm up and start to undress next month in the final month of Gem Journey. At the end of February, I will have literally taken you around the world in this class. And like I said, it's been a divine pleasure and an intellectual challenge, which I love. But we will have completely laid bare the actual geological development of this planet, which I think is super big magic. Is it even cold in New Orleans? I'm going to Austin, Texas on Wednesday, and I know it's cold in Austin. So, I mean, relatively speaking, right? So anyway, thank you so much for that. Yeah, she's going to be posting more. She just said in the groups about the details for this week. I would love to have my GEM students with me when I'm live. Don't have to be there live, but it would be really fun to have you join us for that experience because I'm excited about it. So excited. Okay. I can't believe that. Well, may it warm up for you soon. New Orleans is not normally the place we look and go, oh, that's really cold. Isn't it interesting to be alive right now? Here's what I'm going to tell you about tonight. You know, there's a lot of magic in the UK and Norway, right? A lot of seer energy. And how many of you are interested in and or well-versed in the Norse tradition? Yeah, I've taught you about Norse mythology for over a decade. It's deep magic. This is like, we're going all the way in. And it isn't like in the West, right? Where we go, oh, that's my human life and this is my spiritual life and they're separate. That's not the way it is in Norway. The spirit world is adjacent. The human life and spirit life, they're tandem paths that literally like sort of wind and weave together. So that's one of the reasons why magic in the North, and I'm going to categorize tonight as a session on the North, because this is the farthest north we've gone in Gem Journey together. So like I said, I am going to take you as far as I can tonight. These are rabbit holes. Some concepts, I'm going to give you a concept and then just say, if you want to go further, like this is where you can kind of enter keywords into a search and start to go down the rabbit hole. Ooh, really, Jeanette, this is cool. She said she was the scholar of a Viking hearth that she belonged to. I would love to hear all about that when we get to the end of class tonight and we have some time for Q&A. I would love to know more about what that meant for you. Yeah, and by the end of tonight, you'll know if this is your medicine or not. Again, I have a sliver of ancestry from this region. It's not very much. Most of my ancestry is Mediterranean. I have as much Scottish ancestry as I have North African. So I'm talking like less than 10%. But it is still part of my ancestry, and it's a really crazy thing when you have children and you see it in their faces, right? Like how that ancestry emerges. So I'm excited for tonight. If it starts to get too complicated and I lose you somewhere, just raise your hand or go, hey, can you say that again, or can you explain it differently? Because in my head it all makes sense, but it may not. Like I said, because we're covering a massive swath of our planet tonight, it may take an extra explanation or two, and I'm here for it. You're 14%, Sharon. I love that. How many of you watched the Viking series? It's actually a prerequisite to be my friend. It's not really. But like when people are like, I've never seen Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Vikings, I'm always like, really? So I rank them Lord of the Rings, Vikings, Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is third on my list. So like if I could sit you in a chair or in a bed and tell you you need to spend your weekend watching this, I still would go back to Lord of the Rings. Then I would say when you're done with that, then start Vikings. Then go to Game of Thrones. Vikings was an incredibly accurate, in so many ways, representation of Viking culture and Norse mythology, and the way they wove it in. You know what I mean? Because it wasn't like the whole show wasn't about Norse mythology, but it made so much sense when you know about Odin and Odin's journey and the Norse gods, and then the Norse ideology. And what I want to say is too, I live in the United States, and it's weird here right now. We're not here to talk about that, but I will just say it's a little weird here right now. So some of what we're going to talk about tonight is actually really helpful perspective, because for the Vikings, for the Norse people in general, what mattered, okay, in life was not how you fought. It was about how you surrendered to forces outside your control. There was a gracefulness to the Norse people. They experienced radical hardship, right? I mean, as every ancient tradition and culture have. My ancient ancestors struggled hard. My ancestors, one generation away, almost starved to death, my dad. So it's not like my people don't know what it's like to live through war and fight for their lives and starve to death and be in civil wars and battles and all that. Like everybody knows this stuff, right? But what for me separates the Norse and the Nordic cultures from every other culture, even the Greek and the Roman cultures, when we look at ancestral civilizations more generally, it's not about how you fight. It's about what you acknowledge as fate. And it's about the extent to which you can surrender to what's happening in the moment. In my life, that has been the biggest teacher. Because what I've learned is I can fight and fight and fight, and then my muscles are worn out, and my soul is worn out, and my body's worn out, and nothing really changes, right? Right? Yet this is true. So Jeanette's saying honor. Honor comes for the Norse. Honor comes from how you move in times of challenge and difficulty. And sometimes how you move is about how you surrender, how you move inwardly rather than outwardly, right? How you prioritize the afterlife versus the present life, right? For the Norse, the soul, right, is everything. It's everything. And there's also this idea of like the book of life being sort of pre-written. And so you're walking into a lifetime that was scripted for you, which I will say, I think most people culturally, at least in the West, don't like that idea. You know what I mean? Like, what do you mean it's pre-scripted? What do you mean there's fate? What do you mean everything kind of had an order and a plan and I'm just here to experience it? But the reality is that's spirituality. Like, are we really here to fight every opponent and block every punch? Or are we here to kind of go, okay, this is what's happening right now. How do I move in grace? It's a different worldview, but I want to invite you to embrace it just for tonight. And then try it on like clothes. And if you don't like the outfit, then you can leave it behind. Maybe this isn't even your medicine. It's a little bit my medicine. How to just lay the armor down and go, okay, this is where we are. This is what we're doing right now. And my job is to move with as much grace and gratitude as I can, as much beauty and ease as I can, right? Is it really the 20th anniversary of the Lord of the Rings movie? Really? It's kind of like when people go, oh yeah, the year 2000 was 26 years ago, or like 1986 was 40 years ago, and I go, what? Wasn't that yesterday? And it's like, oh shit, I'm getting old. Christina said, this is the lesson the ancestors have been teaching me these past few years. And so, how are you doing in the learning of it? If you could give yourself a grade, I would give myself a solid C. I think I'm passing. I don't think I'm getting an A or a B in the surrender class, right? Like, I think if my professor in the art of surrender could give me a grade, they'd be like, Athena's passing. She's shown up to class. Most of her assignments are complete. Some of them were not as good. She got an A on that one test. So we're giving her a 75, right? I'm not saying I'm like acing this class all day long. I'm a fighter. I kind of suck at surrender, but at the same time, when I think about surrender, my body softens, my central nervous system relaxes. Like, think about it. Let's take it. One of my areas of expertise is in archetypal teaching. Let's take it out of the realm of war. Let's take it into the realm of sex. How much better is lovemaking when you surrender to the moment in your partner and how your body feels? When you're not going, oh my God, what if they see this? Or turn off the lights, or I don't know what you know what I mean? Like, how much better is it when you just go, let's just be in this moment together? The same is true for life. If you're like, oh God, this and that, I don't know, it's like you're uncomfortable and your whole body is tensing. But when you just kind of surrender and release in the moment, that's when magic happens. So that's my point to you tonight, is I think if these two civilizations are going to teach us anything about how to be human now, and listen, why else is this class even important if it isn't about helping you with life now? Yes, I know we're all historians at heart. And yes, I know we're kind of, buffs of this stuff, and we love all the information and all the geology. I love it too. But if it doesn't have relevance for you right now, then what even is the point? And I guess what I'm telling you tonight is, I think the point is they can still teach us something about the art of surrender and the art of trusting the process. If they did nothing else, right? If they did nothing else, they taught us how to soften. I'm going to go so far as to say, have you been, by the way, to either Norway or United Kingdom? I have spent a bunch of time in England. I have not been to Wales. I have flown over Norway. I have not been to Norway, but I flew over and close enough to really see like the fjords, and it is even flying over it. As I went to Oslo. So I won't say I haven't been, but I just I landed in Oslo. I was on a layover between Paris and Los Angeles. So I landed, got to see the fjords, and then, it was like lift off and off again. It's undeniable, right? That the pace and the gentleness, and also the magic and the power and the potency. So let me dive right in. Have you guys heard of Baltica? Baltica. My memory sucks, so don't judge yourself. Do you remember when I taught you about North America and Laurentia? It wasn't that long ago. You may not have been here, okay? Maybe you're new, which is awesome, okay? So I'm gonna map you again, okay? This is sort of an evolution of the land masses, but this is Laurentia in the period we're talking about, and I'll give you year milestones in just a second. Do you see this line? That line. I'm sorry. That line right there. Okay. This 1/4 of Laurentia is called Baltia. Okay. And so Baltia, or Baltica, I'm sorry, Baltica, is the ancient core of Northern Europe, specifically the UK, England, Scotland, Ireland, Wales. Okay. So they were connected, which is interesting to think about North America and UK being connected. But remember, the whole planet was connected. If you go back to the beginning of this class, right, and then like little by little things break off, chunks start floating in different directions, right? So started there. 490 to 390 million years ago. And we've been dealing in billions of years in this class. So that's kind of still like, these are still like, this is Earth's childhood to some extent, right? But it's still old as fuck. Baltica collided with Laurentia and created what's called the Chalcedonian orogeny, Orogeny, orogeny. It was a big mountain range. Okay, so if I've taught you nothing, okay, when continents collide, they make mountains. Boom, boom, and where the boom happens, a surge of energy that pushes land masses together and up. Okay, always think of that. Two land masses strike, they don't go down, they come up. And then what that does is it has a radical effect on bodies of water. Think about it, right? So land comes up, and then land masses are submerged, right? Creates sort of a, in some cases, it creates a, God, what's the word on the tip of my tongue? Like a mass tidal wave. And so again, if you've been to UK in any form of it, tonight will really resonate with you. If you've been to any of the Baltic countries, it'll resonate too. Okay, these mountains stretched across Norway, Scotland, Greenland, and parts of North America, because think about it again, Laurentia was the origin point of North America. So a lot of the great mountain ranges still exist. May have been as tall as the Himalayan mountain ridge at their peak. We think of the Himalayan mountain ridge, remember, as being one of the foundational, one of the first, and one of the tallest mountain ridges ever formed on this planet. That's why we love the stones that come from the Himalayan ridge, because talk about big wisdom. And our ancestors, by the way, okay, this is where I think this gets really interesting. And the only reason I know this is because of a friend of mine who's a Roman historian. It helps to have academic friends. So when I told her I was teaching this class, so interesting. So she was like, when you get to the formation of North America and the formation of the UK and the northern regions, right? She's like, you've got to remember, the Romans and the Greeks, like this for them was the great mystery. The Romans and the Greeks thought that magic came from the north. They thought that the spirits originated in the north, right? There was a whole, because the Romans in particular, and as a Greek person, it's hard to say this, but the Romans were incredible historians. But then they developed all kinds of legends and lores around things they didn't understand. But they absolutely put pins in the map around, especially Norway, and had radical fascination with the spirit world as experiencing Norway as a point of origin. So she's like, you've got to remember, and I'm remembering, I made it a point in my notes to put this down for you. To the Romans, like there wasn't bigger magic in the world than the Norse traditions in Norway. Kind of interesting, right? So we always think of like the Greeks and Romans and their magic and their temples and their gods and their mythology. Do you ever think about this? Who were they looking to? They were looking to the Norse gods and going, that's old magic. But remember, the Greeks and the Romans, we talk about 3,000 years ago, 2,500 years ago, again, that isn't even like infancy. So when the Seder magic, that's exactly right. They looked north and they were like, no, that's magic, right? So that's why I'm telling you, tonight feels so intimidating to me. Even though I've taught the history of Western civilization at university, I've taught foundational, I taught a series of sociology classes about the foundation of Western culture. Like even having taught all of that as a PhD professor in American universities, I still feel intimidated when I get to this. Because this is where my ancient traditions, the farthest back I can trace with my lineage, still look and go, that's magic. We think we know magic. The real magic is up there. So now we have to remember ice ages, right? So, and we've talked about this too, right? Like massive ice formations and then the massive melting of those ice formations. they eroded this Caledonian Ridge, this mountain formation I'm telling you about. And what remains today, this you have to know this, what remains today of Norway and the UK to some extent too, are the eroded foundations of this original clash that pushed this peak skyward. I think part of the reason, and my friend said this as a Roman historian, she was like, I think the thing is, when our ancestors saw huge mountain ranges, they believed that was God access, right? I mean, that's why the Egyptians built pyramids, or whatever, the aliens built pyramids through the Egyptians, however you think of it. She's like, remember, anything that was so high that it couldn't be climbed was deified. The gods lived there, right? Think of Mount Olympus. Think of the of this particular ridge, the Caledonian Ridge. Think of the Himalayan. Even now, right? The Himalayan Ridge is not really surmountable, and so we think of like the gods living there. So she's like, remember, this is when our ancient ancestors look north, they go, okay, that's where the gods came from. Forget Olympus. It's the Caledonian Ridge. So then 200 to 60 million years ago, so we've gone from 500 million years ago with this sort of foundational collision between Laurentia and Baltica. 200 to 60 million years ago, Pangaea broke apart, as you know. The Atlantic Ocean opened and formed in its modern form, and Scandinavia separated from Greenland and North America. It's the first real experience of what we call Greenland. It's the first real experience of what we call North America. Again, these were all merged landforms, and that's the point at which they became separate. This movement, this 200 to 60 million year ago movement, uplifted the landscape of Norway. Norway is still rising, by the way, from the water at a rate of about like a centimeter or two a year. And that's important to remember. People are always like, were those collisions sudden? Did they happen really quickly? No. And just like Hawaii is migrating north every year by an inch or two, and eventually Hawaii will be frozen, right? It's going to keep moving north and get colder. If it's not submerged underwater, which again, seismic activity will decide all of that. So kind of the same thing with Norway. Norway is still rising from the water. And for historians and mythologists, that means, again, the gods. What force to our ancestral, relatives could rise something from the oceans without force? It has to be God, right? The gods. So 2 to 3 million years ago, we have the ice ages, and we have massive glaciers that were covering Norway, melting. Imagine that for a minute, right? Have you seen my new obsession? If you end up missing this class, I would recommend a show, because I've been watching it, called Pole to Pole. Have you seen it with Will Smith? I went into that show. I'm not a big TV watcher at all, but when I turned it on, I don't like to watch news. So I was like, what should I watch? And someone had recommended Pole to Pole to me. So I've only watched the first episode, which is on Antarctica, South Pole. But Will Smith goes down there, and he goes to a research center that's run by these Brazilian researchers who live down there, and it's uninhabitable practically, right? They're in these little tiny shelters. But in that South Pole Research Center, they're talking about the glaciers melting and the rate at which the glaciers are melting, which of course is causing some of our, even Hawaii, right? Water levels to be rising, parts of the islands to be submerged, or at least will be, maybe not in our lifetime, but in the next 2 generations, right? So we see the global impact of the rising of the water level. When the ice melted the valleys of Norway, created something called a fjord, F-J-O-R-D. A fjord, if you have not seen, and again, you can Google this and start to go down these rabbit holes. If you've seen the Viking show, if you know where Kattegat is, which is sort of like the heartbeat of the show, the Viking show, Kattegat sits on a fjord. And the fjords are interesting, right? Because for the Vikings, it was both a strategic advantage and a death now, right? You got trapped in these little valleys. So Kattegat was this town sitting inside of a fjord. So the fjords were these waterways with these radically high elevated peaks on either side of them. And in order to get out of villages and towns like Kattegat, you had to go through the fjord and out into the main waterways. Well, you were at a risk, right? Because anyone who could climb the mountain ways could attack you. And there were all kinds of places to hide. Now, some of the peaks of the fjords are not accessible. You can't climb them. And so the legends were, right, that's the seat of the gods, just like in Olympus in Greece, right? The gods sat on the peaks of Mount Olympus and watched humans. That's kind of what the theory is in the Norse tradition too. Now, here's what's different. Norway's fjords are the deepest on Earth. There's lots of places on Earth where you have valleys. Happens in Central America, South America, where you have tiny villages that are sitting on the edges of rivers with mountains around them that lead into open ocean. That's not unique. What makes the Norwegian fjords different is the height of the elevation of the mountains is matched by the depth of the water in the fjord. So people would drown in the fjords, not far off the coastline. And people would be like, how are people drowning? But because it literally is like a shelf, like you leave the coastline and it is a steep drop. So the rule is with Norwegian geology, you look at the peak of the mountain, that's how deep you know the water is next to the fjord. Does that make sense? It gives all new meaning to this concept, as above, so below, that the height of the land is matched by the depth of the water. And I think there's a beauty, there's a symmetry, there's a balance, there's a integrity to that model. But the Norse knew it. They knew that the water was deadly. It's freezing, it's deep. It goes from, when you look at it, right, it goes from being sort of a light bright blue right on the edge of the villages that sit inside the fjords to black, right, which tells you the depth of the water goes as deep as it can go. This is because the bedrock was already fractured because of the collision between Laurentia and Baltica, which fractured the bedrock of the planet. Again, you can't have major continental formations colliding without massive breakdown of the infrastructure. The glaciers were really thick and really heavy. And so that's why Norway is still rising today, because the breakdown and the collision and the fracturing of that core structure of the planet, which is the deepest, hardest on the planet. Here's what's interesting about Norway. There isn't a lot of soil and sediment. It's not an easy place to grow anything. It's mostly rock, bedrock, and water. So it isn't, the UK is different. The UK is fertile. So when we look at the differences between Norway and the United Kingdom, you have more fertility, you have more minerals, right? The Norse were incredible traders. They were. So yes, they had moonstone. Yes, they had quartz. Yes, they had, you can research and other minerals too. They had selenite and other things. Some of them, gypsum is native, and thulite is native to Norway. This is one of the stones in your kit for tonight. Take a minute, by the way. Take a minute. I don't normally do this when I'm teaching about the countries, but because this region is such a tactile experience, because so many of you are in freezing weather right now, I want you to hold the stone and I want you to feel the depth, the collision energy that it holds. This stone is literally a product of that collision and the submersion of that land and the absolute freezing of that space, which, by the way, stopped all life. I mean, life can't survive. And then life had to fight to emerge, right? And the land itself had to fight it's still fighting to breathe. If you think of the fjords and the depth, and if you think of the mountain and its fight to rise, It's like when you dive into deep water and you're just like to the top, and you get to the top and you gasp. That's thulite. And did you notice, Amy, how cold the stone is? It's colder. I swear to God. Hold the Presley bluestone. Now, by the way, also fucking cold. Okay? But not frozen to its absolute core. I'm just saying, play with it. You know what I mean? Feel into it, see what it says to you. You can try receiving that in the left hand. Switch hands, receive the bluestone, and then feel the balance of the two. These are both tales of water and ice, right? Water and stone. These are not tales of fire. Indonesia is. I'm taking you somewhere completely different next month. And by the way, it's a huge piece of blue amber for next month. So I'm really stoked about this. It's our last class. We're doing some really cool stones. That's a tale of fire. This is a tale of ice. So I'm literally taking you from one elemental extreme to the other so that you can experience the balance, the duality, right? Bluestone, heat it up quicker. It does. I'm telling you. And then here's the thing. Put them down and leave them alone for a second, right? Yeah, so the thulite is pink and green. I cannot wait, by the way, Sharon, to tell you about why this is the most unique heart chakra stone you'll ever own. I'll give you I'm getting to it in my notes. I'm on page 2 of 5, so I got a lot of teaching to do. We'll get there. I told you this could be a TED Talk. Every other heart chakra stone, Athena's opinion, take it for what it's worth, is a heart opener, and to some extent is an enabler. And it's interesting how the music is kind of like, I didn't plan this, but there's a little, I'll have to look at what these songs are later. This is now playing on its own. And do you hear it? It's not normally what I play. It almost feels Norse, Icelandic. There's like a deep kind of wind instrument energy to the music. Do you hear it? I didn't plan that. And all the birds are circling in the tree in front of me right now, which I've never actually seen that in my 10 years of living here. They're like circling around the top of the tree. Okay. Heart chakra stones, the shadow of them is that they bypass the work. Open your heart. What if you're not ready to open your heart? What if you open your heart too quickly? Thulite is the only heart chakra stone in the entire gem and mineral kingdom, in my opinion, that says you're not going to open your heart until it's time. And it decides. And sometimes, my experience, the heart needs to stay frozen a little bit before it thaws. Because if it thaws too soon, right, you haven't done the work, you haven't really felt the feelings, right? Like sometimes it has to stay frozen, and then a crack, and then a crack, and then a crack, and then a crack. And then you're like, well, I'm kind of open, but I'm not all the way open. It's the only heart chakra stone that we call a throat chakra stone because it begins with your voice. It's a whisper, like open just a little, right? But not all the way. If you open too far before you do the work, you could get hurt again, right? There's something about this stone, and it's the only stone of its kind in the entire gem and mineral world. So I've had people come to me and they're like, oh, it looks like this, it looks like that, it looks like different kinds of, it looks like unakite jasper. This couldn't be any more different than unakite. Because unakite is still trying to fast forward your healing. Unakite is about manifesting heart healing. That's not what thulite's doing. Thulite is like, can you hear what is unspoken? Can you feel even though your heart's frozen? You know, when you freeze, when you put an ice cube in a drink and it like it's slowly, right? Like you can hear the ice kind of tingle because it's starting to thaw, but it's so slight, right? That's the message of this. Okay. Norway is an exposed continental bone. It's not meant to be beautiful. It's not meant to be covered in life. It's an exposed bone, right? At best, you can expect skin to grow over it, but it's never going to wow you with its wildlife or with its flora and fauna. That's not the job of Norway. Norway literally, do you hear it? I will want to look back at this and see what this is. I'm just going to check what track this is because I won't know. I don't want to tell you what it is. Stay here. I feel like it's important for us. So hold on. Shaman Journey, Sylvia Nakach. It's called Shaman Journey by Sylvia Nakach. I'm going to write it down. Nakkach. Shaman Journey. I'll put it in your notes if you're on replay. I feel like you need to listen to that later. Okay. Sylvia Nakach. Okay. Norway does not have soil sediment. Glaciers were stripped down to Precambrian rock, some of the oldest on Earth. In Norway, you don't watch the land watches you. Those fjords, you're not looking up at them to watch them. They're looking down at you to watch you. That's the difference between Norway and the Himalayan ridge, where again, like if I were talking to Tibetan monks, they would say, you know, we watch and they watch. There's a reciprocity. That's not the case in Norway. There isn't reciprocity. The land is watching you. Fjords are considered for the Norse people, the Nordic people. They're considered thresholds. The translation of what they call the fjords translates to spirit roads. Cool. Ancestral passages. The Vikings knew this. The Vikings considered this region, right? The Vikings considered Norway to be the Earth's central nervous system, which again makes complete sense. This is where the Earth learned how to feel because of the water element medicine. Again, this is a water stone. It's born of ice, but it does not want to be frozen prematurely. It wants to be thawed. And it doesn't want you to thaw prematurely. It wants you to feel before you open and test the water. And it's watching you to see if you're ready. You're not watching it to see if you're ready or it's ready. Couple things about the Vikings that are relevant to all of this. So the Vikings, as they inhabited this land, and again, so long after its formation, we think of the Norse tradition as being ancient, and it is. It's one of our ancient civilizations. They had 3 words for the different worlds, kind of like we do in shamanism. So it's interesting that that's a shamanic song that came on. The first word is Midgard. Again, some of you may know this language, but if you are new to this cosmology, then you may not be familiar with it. Midgard is called the human world, and that's the valleys and the coastlines of Norway. That's Midgard. Jotunheim is called the giant realms, and that's the mountains and the ice. Our ancient ancestors, our ancient Norse ancestors, believed these were giant gods, and that they were actually descendants of sky gods, which is similar to the narratives that we've seen all over the world. Okay, and then Asgard, elevated realms and the inaccessible peaks. So whatever is watching you from those elevation points that you can't reach, that's in the realm of Asgard or Asgard, Asgard. Norway's climate is winter dominant. I think that goes without saying, and it's unforgiving. human life is not the currency of Norway. It's one of the reasons why it's so incredibly. Siberia has some of the same energy, by the way, in northern Russia. It's like it's not meant to sustain human life. So what does that mean? There are places on this planet that are not meant to sustain us. They're meant to watch us. They're meant to shift our consciousness. They're meant to threshold us from one domain or realm of reality to another. The word for fate in the ancient Norse tradition, do you know what the word is? It's one of my favorite words. It's actually one of the root words of one of my favorite English words. Do you know what the word for fate is? Some of you come from this tradition, so some of you know this already. I'm glad you like this song. Whatever came up next is really good too. I'll try to make a playlist for tonight's class because Spirit is DJing this, and usually what I can do is go like backtrack and then just add it to a new playlist. But it's beautiful tonight. Very grateful for whatever's on the turntables. So the Norse word for fate is weird, W-I-R-D. And as Jeanette was saying earlier with her wisdom, which by the way, don't we wish we could download Jeanette's brain? I love it when you guys have experience in these realms and traditions. So if you feel called to share anything, please feel more than invited. This is not Norse cosmology, mythology is not my foremost area of expertise. I've done a lot of work and research, but I love learning. So if you have stuff to share, I would love it. As she mentioned earlier, the power in the Norse tradition is about accepting your fate, not fighting it. Why me? Why this? Why now? Can you imagine? To a tradition that says that your honor comes from your acceptance of your fate, if all you do is complain and fight, they would look at us and go, no wonder she's struggling, right? This is, it's not popular wisdom right now, but it's my wisdom. And I have to keep reminding myself of it because it's super fucking hard to be human right now. I think we chose to be here now. One of my first teachers, who's no longer with us, she passed away. I'll never forget her saying that to me. Like, always remember you chose this. So when you want to complain and it's hard and, and you long for the past, she was like, always remember you chose this. This was a choice. And it is so powerful in those moments where I go, okay, so if I chose this, then what does that mean? It means I have a responsibility. It means I have strength, because I wouldn't have chosen this if I didn't think I could do it, right? When we choose something, we're also saying, I can do that. So I chose this. I have the strength to do this. I have something to offer to this moment. This moment has something to offer to me. I'm learning something. What am I learning, right? It puts you in the role of agency, and you don't feel like a victim when you acknowledge that you've chosen where you are. I would also say, I would extend her theory, and I think the Norse teachings would echo this. When you acknowledge that you chose something, then you have to be grateful for it. You might say, I'm not going to be grateful for any of this, to which I would say, that may not be the wisest choice. And it's so hard to be grateful for things that are difficult, right? But for the Norse, who absolutely believed in concepts like Valhalla and deities like the Valkyries, right? So the Valkyries are the entities, the gods that take you to Valhalla, right, at death. And one of the greatest rewards of a Norse lifetime would have been to die in battle in service, right? And you can translate that literally or figuratively, but it would be an honor to live this life and complete it in service of, or in support of, the greater good, right? Then that's a life well lived. It's a completely different concept than we have in the West, where we just want things to be easy and comfortable, and don't you go switching up my reality, and don't you ask too much of me, right? It's a completely different perspective. And I'm not saying we have to go from A to Z, but I think we have to go to like LMNO, somewhere in the middle between I just want things to always stay the same and be easy to I'm a Viking and dying in battle is my greatest honor, right? There's somewhere in the middle of like, I'd like a little ease and flow, but I also acknowledge that sometimes I'm going to have to make sacrifices. And I don't know what those sacrifices are going to demand of me, but it might be part of my reason for being here. Does this make sense? And maybe you did, as Martha said. Maybe you chose to be the change that you want to see in the world. Certainly, there will be books and stories and poems, epic poems written about this time. And I have a little guided visualization for each night, some drumming. But I think certainly there will be epics written about some part of the events of this time. And I do think part of how we navigate it now is to be mindful of that. If we don't study history and learn that, then what are we doing? Right? We should be able to look back and then reflect on the present and then see ahead with a new perspective. How do you face what is inevitable? That's a living question for me. It's the human question. 50 years from now, most likely we will not be here, right? Most of us. Like, how do you face that inevitability? Do you face it? Do you ignore it? Do you fight it? Do you resolve yourself to it and say, with the time, resources, and space that I have, I'm going to etch something into the bedrock so that the people who are here 50 years from now look back and go, this world's a little better because she was here. This world's a little better because they were here. The Vikings would say that's what it is. We're just etching something small into the bedrock so that there's an echo of us in the foundation. I call this medicinal wisdom. Medicine doesn't taste good by and large, right? Like every time my kids are not feeling well and they have to take like, they don't have to, but like I give them Theraflu or NyQuil or whatever, every time since they were babies, they're like, it just tastes like shit, right? But it's the medicine that's going to help you sleep, or it's the medicine that's going to help you with your symptoms, right? It's medicinal wisdom isn't always fun and it isn't always beautiful, but it is necessary. And I think this wisdom in my notes, in your notes, I said, I think this wisdom speaks to the warrior in all of us, right? Again, my ancestors came from war. Maybe yours did too. At some point they did. But I mean, mine I know of. Maybe you don't know of yours. Maybe it's been a few generations since your ancestors were in battle. But it's one generation away from me, right? My grandfather died of a heart attack very young because he went to war twice and it just destroyed his body, right? So it's only one generation away from me. So whereas in the ancient Greek and Roman myths and traditions, like the ancestors move in wisdom, they move in philosophy, they move in more subtle ways. To the Norse, the ancestors move in the mist, in the mountains, and in silence. And it's the same for the United Kingdom. The mist is not just fog in the UK, it's the ancestral space. And when the mist moves and the fog clears and you can see the mountains, that's a message to you from your ancestors. And then when the mist moves back in, it's like clarity and then obscurity, and then clarity and obscurity. Like I see and now it's hidden, and I see and now it's hidden. And it's kind of the rhythm and the ebb and the flow of how the ancestors work with us and move with us. Okay, so through light, I want to talk about the stone now, is actually a zoisite. Isn't that cool? The same mineral family as traditional zoisite. Different geological realities, different formations. What differentiates this from traditional zoisite is manganese. This is manganese dense. So we traditionally think of manganese as being black, right? Like we think of rhodonite and we think of sugilite as being traditional ores of manganese. But in Norway, in the manganese mines, this is what you find. Isn't that cool? The legend. So there was a place called Thule, Thule. I've never actually taught the history of thulite, so I'm kind of excited. I brought it to you as Sage Goddess for like 14 of the 15 years I've been around. It was one of the first stones I brought where I was like, there's something different about this. And I'll never forget. I think I was at Tucson. I think it was my first Tucson when I first found thulite. And I was like, what is that? It looks kind of like, again, I think back to Unakite jasper. It's the easiest to confuse it for, right? But Unakite jasper is more coral peach. It's not so pink. So there's a mythic place called Thule, Thule. And the Greeks and the Romans, and my friend who's a historian echoed this. She was like, yeah, they called it the place that could not be contained by a map. Thule was thought to be this like kind of like Shambhala, like this ancient mythic land that you couldn't even draw on a map because it was so big and because it was so in the land of the imaginal realm. It's ancient, it's metamorphic. It was first discovered in 1820. So we've had it for about 200 years. It's shaped by collision. Do you know what actually brought it to the surface? You know what's interesting is, you know how sugilite was, or not sugilite, tanzanite. You know how tanzanite was brought to the surface, right? By lightning strikes, again, fire. Africa is a tale of fire. So in Africa, that's how tanzanite in Tanzania came forward, right? There was a radical storm. The lightning struck the planet. I taught you about this earlier this year. And then it extracted, with every lightning bolt that came out of Kilimanjaro, it pulled out all of these little blue nuggets, right? It was actually the rising ice. The formation of the fjords pulled thulite out of the mountainsides. So it is literally born of ice. If this stone in this region is the planet's central nervous system, what we know about stones and their origin points is that is actually the medicine they bring. So it's shaped by collision and shaped by forces that are unsurvivable for humans. Again, you would not survive the journey that this stone had to take to get to you. Now, is that true of most stones? Yes. Right? Think about stones that form in Brazil, for example, where they're hydrothermally formed. So they're born of fire and water that would literally boil your skin off of your bones, right? So equally unsurvivable conditions, but this is the opposite. Whereas Brazil is basically a caldera, it's basically a soup, right, of hot water that formed all of our crystals. It's the opposite. It's the frozen water. It's the frozen stew, if you will. Thulite, like I said, does not bypass grief or anger. Thulite says you have to feel it all. And there's no fast forward button. You got to sit in it, steep in it, let it freeze around you, let it chill you to the bone. You got to look at it from every side. And there's no easy way out. The only way out is up. The only way to get thulite out of the eyes is for the geology, for the mountains to rise. Thulite does not soften the truth. You're going to hear it like it is. And that's why people call it a throat chakra stone, but that's a really simple, kind of oversimplified story, because the only way to really receive truth is to marinate in it, right? Not just to hear it and not just to know it, but to be surrounded by it, to actually have it penetrate the bedrock, the foundational rock of your own spirit. It doesn't, it doesn't disassociate. It doesn't check out. It can't. And this is also Norse medicine. In Norse cosmology, we don't, just because we don't like something, we don't just go, la la, I'm not going to hear that, or I don't want to, see no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil, or whatever. That's not the medicine of Norse culture, and it's also not the medicine of the Norse stones. You're going to sit in it. You're going to listen to it. I don't care if you like it or not. And you're not going to get released from the dharma and the karma of it until you've received its medicine. exhausted. Sometimes, like, I think to myself, I hope they love these classes and I hope they're relaxing. And I think to myself, I hope you're sitting somewhere just like that. I have an audience. Okay. Now, I want to talk about Presley Bluestone, and then I'm going to go into the oils. So I'm going to jump ahead in my notes, and then I'm going to jump back. If you have any questions right now, it'd be a great time to ask them. Lana said, "It saddens me to think what I am will be gone." I have had students fall asleep in my classes, and I'm always like, it's kind of a compliment, right? And they would be like, "No, Miss P, Dr. P, whatever, your voice is really soothing." And so I'm paying attention, but like, I can't help it. I fall asleep. I was like, I don't know if that's a good thing. I love that. Yeah. So, but for real, it's hard for humans, for us to really contemplate on a philosophical level the fact that at some point we won't exist in this form. And that what will exist of us is the love that we share, maybe some stuff, you know what I mean? I was at an estate sale this weekend because that's my hobby. And the only reason I mention it to you is it's kind of relevant. So I cannot tell you how many times I go to estate sales. This is probably maybe the 20th or 30th time I've gone. Because I always ask questions of the people who are there. Hey, did you know whose house this was? Are there any interesting stories? It's like I'm touching all these things, and I'd like to think about the person behind the things, because usually it's somebody who's passed away. And so this woman had, it was clear she was very ill before she died, right? There's medication everywhere, and there's all kinds of, I don't have to go into details, but there's signs, right, that people are ill. But then there were her ballroom dance costumes and these beautiful little silk, she had little feet, little silk shoes. I have small feet, and they were still smaller than my feet. And then there were pictures of her and her husband and all these things. And so I started asking, about her. So there's a woman standing behind me, and she said, I knew her. And I turn around, and it's this beautiful blonde woman, right? Long blonde hair, and she's just beautiful. And I said, really? And she said, I was her ballroom dance teacher. And she's like, I saw her in those gowns and the shoes and she's like, I always told her, you and I wear the same size shoe. And I used to tease her. And she's like, I'm actually buying some of her dance shoes today because I remember her wearing these and I remember her wearing those. And I had chills all over. And she said, yeah, her husband died and she was gone within like 2 or 3 months. She said, they were always super playful with each other. And they had gone on a trip and they came back, and he told her, I'm not feeling well. And she turned around and he had died. And she said they were really playful, even though they'd been married for like 30, 40 years or whatever it was. She said they always used to kind of rib each other and tease each other. And so she thought he was teasing. Oh, come on. And then she realized he was gone. And she said she literally could not live without him. Like, he was the blood in her veins, literally. And she said, she lived longer than I thought she would after he passed away. I went back through the house after she told me. I spent a few minutes with her. I bought a silk robe because she was like, they went to France every summer and she was obsessed with like French silk and all these things. And I was like, look at this robe. And she's like, I know. And she said, oh, how she loved him. And oh, how he loved her. Like, that was a love story. And when I went back outside to leave, they had etched their initials into the driveway, like her first initial and a heart, and her last initial and his first initial and a heart. Yeah. But you know how much that meant to me to hear that story, even though that hasn't been my lived experience, to have that kind of experience. And it made me realize what's left behind is not the French silk robe, and the little tiny silk dance shoes and her ballroom costume, which were beautiful, by the way. What's left behind is the love. It echoes. I got to hear about it in that moment. Now I'm telling you about it. You might tell somebody else about it, right? Like, I heard this really interesting story. Isn't it amazing? Like how people are just so tethered to each other and this love is so strong. And that's what's left after we go are the stories and the magic of the love that we live. And one of the things when I think about, so I'm going to bring this back to class, okay? What a story, right? And I'm telling you, when I went back through the house after hearing that story, I bought a couple of things because I was just like, I think I bought like a shawl and she just had a few things. It wasn't about the stuff, you know what I mean? It was about the story. It always is about the stories. So when I think about the Norse tradition, right? Yeah. When I think about the Norse tradition, one of the things I think about is think about love in an environment like that. You have to live. Most of the year, you have to live by firelight. There's no central heating, right? I want to invite you, if tonight resonates with you at all and you haven't watched Vikings, again, it's not like historically super accurate to the detail, but echoes of it are. And some of the rituals and ceremonies are historically accurate. And I want to invite you, if you want to get lost in a series and you never watched it, it will move you. And at the core of it is a love story of two people who, and I think in those times, traditions, temperatures, whatever, I think that our love literally bound us together in ways that are hard for us to imagine now in modern times. You know what I mean? And when I think about those fjords and those valleys and those mountains, it's love etched into time. And I think a stone like this wasn't, when you think about the Norse and the Nordic cultures, right? It's not an easy life. It's hard to grow things. It's hard to travel. It's hard to acquire resources, right? At times, it's hard to move. So yes, you have furs, and then you have furs upon furs, and you can judge that. But listen, if you didn't have a fur, you know what I mean? You weren't going to make it. And you're making love on furs by firelight. And I mean, it's a different mindset, right? And I do think about the love stories. And then I think about Thulite as the ice of that story, right? The truth of that story, and not letting you off the hook. You don't get to dodge grief. You don't get to dodge loss. You get to live in it. You get to be surrounded by it. But then you can warm it by the fire, right? And you can heal it through the embrace. If that makes sense. I don't know why I told you all of that, but in my mind, in my heart, it all seemed really connected. Come with me now to the UK, okay? Come down to the UK for just a second. We're going to come out of Norway down to Wales. I think I've told you, I forgot to look up the name of it again. I want to give this to you. So give me 1 second because I want to give you the correct name. Aberfan. Seriously, it's Aberfan. Do you guys know the story of Aberfan? 1966 in southern Wales. I only learned about Aberfan about 5 years ago, and I will tell you, I wanted all of my money back from high school history, college history classes. I was furious when I learned about Aberfan for the first time, literally like 5 years ago. Do you guys know about Aberfan? It was a coal disaster in southern Wales. Oh my God, go down the rabbit hole. But don't, take your time with it. It's a tragedy and it's overwhelming for the central nervous system. So basically, in Aberfan, they were sort of like piling the coal up on a hillside, okay, above this little Welsh village, and like piling it and piling it and piling it, and then the rain would come and it would kind of like condense the coal into a pile. Wait till you learn about Aberfan, and then you're gonna be fucking pissed too. I'm serious. When we don't know about major parts of our history, like I'm just like, what? We're one population. And by the way, lots of my British friends didn't know about Aberfan either. And I was like, how do you not know about Aberfan? They were like, how did you not know about Aberfan? So one week there was a massive storm in Wales in 1966, in our lifetimes. And the storm, instead of condensing the coal into the hillside, collapsed it. And so the entire village was basically submerged in coal. And all at once, the little school, it was 144 people, 116 of them were children. A good chunk of them were teachers, because it was mostly one school, a big school. And it was right before their holiday break. I think it was like Friday before they left for the holidays. So is that right? You can watch all kinds of videos about it. It happened at 9:15 a.m. at Pantglas Junior School. Half of the children in the entire village. Yeah. Okay. So one of the ways I saw about it is I was watching The Crown, and Queen Elizabeth didn't show up quick enough. Everybody wanted her to go to Aberfan, and she waited. And there's all kinds of criticism still about why she waited, and did she wait too long, and people needed comfort, and where was the queen, and all this stuff. And eventually she went. It was like, really? Like, you waited all that time? But anyway, there's a mass monument, all this thing to all of these children who were crushed, right? Yeah, so they show it in The Crown, which is where a lot of people heard about it. I learned about it slightly before The Crown, and then of course The Crown's representation of Elizabeth's participation, which I feel critical of, but I don't have enough information to know. Anyway, I'm telling you all this because there's a lot of history in a lot of parts of the world that, you know, some of us just get to at an older age, and it changes us. Like I'll never feel the same about anything after watching what I watched about Aberfan, and if it had happened on a slightly different day, like if it had happened after they left that Friday, if they'd just gone home and they would have been in their houses, they would have survived. Their parents survived. And then it's like the parents rushing to the school and trying to find out the status of their children. And I mean, you can go down the rabbit hole. I'm sharing all of this with you because the UK is small and big, right? And there are sovereign countries within the United Kingdom that are all separate and have their own history. So we can't look at Wales and England, right, as being the same, right? We have different languages. The Welsh language is unique. It's beautiful, by the way. I don't understand any of it, but I think it's stunning. I actually have this little silver pendant which says Maclwyd on it. It's a Welsh word that to summarize what it basically means is the sun will rise again, and it's from one of my dearest friends as a gift during my divorce process. It's meant to like remind me that things will get better, and it's so Welsh, you know what I mean? Like there's an effervescence of the Welsh spirit that's like things will get better, we can heal, we can rise above circumstances, all of these things. So Pressley Bluestone comes from Wales. Uniquely so. Now, if you look at the geography, I don't have a map of this to show you, but you can look on a map. You can open another tab, look up Wales and Stonehenge. They're not close to each other, okay? Stonehenge is interior, Wales is exterior coastal. A good chunk of the stones at Stonehenge, right, which is a sacred monolithic, right, geologic formation, came from Wales. How'd they get there? Right? It's sort of like, how did the pyramids form? It seems relatively impossible. Pressley Bluestone has a high specific density. It's 480 million years old. It's, you know, when people say, well, what stones come from the UK? There's not a lot of uniquely UK stones, but Pressley Bluestone doesn't form anywhere else outside of the United Kingdom. It has a volcanic birth. So to some extent, this is a story of fire, even though United Kingdom is a story of ice, right? Again, remember the formation of the United Kingdom. Which page is this on in your notes? They jumped all over the place. The formation of the United Kingdom and Norway are connected by virtue of Baltica and Laurentia. Oh, it's here on page 5. So they're born in the same collision, the UK and Norway. Did you know that? So if you have Nordic roots and you have British or Irish or Welsh or roots, you actually, that's the same lineage, and your deepest ancestry comes from the same collision of the same two land forces. This collision, by the way, in energetic terms for metaphysical folks, is called the collision of power versus force. Natural collision forcing this rising of this mountain top. Now, a small microcontinent about 500 million years old, same formation period as the UK, as the collision between what is now known as the UK and what's known as Norway. Same collision formed something, a small microcontinent called Avalonia. Does that sound familiar? Avalonia. This is why people like my friend Louis Craig and others refer to parts of the UK as Avalon. Okay. Avalonia, it's hard not to pronounce it in Greek, it's Avalonia, was attached originally to Gondwana at the point where Africa is located. Yeah. So then you start going, whoa, it was attached near Africa, broke apart during this massive collision between Laurentia and Baltica and formed this sort of subcontinent, almost like a triangle. And so England and Wales are considered to be Avalonian. They're closer to Avalonia than they are to Baltica and Laurentia. Are you tracking me? Okay. And Merlin took them there. Isn't that cool? So if you're like, why do they call it Avalon? Now you know. Avalonia was a place. Now, we can go down the whole rabbit hole. This is why this class could be 19 hours long. We could go down the whole rabbit hole of the connection between Avalonia, and Atlantis. Because technically, the region that we call Atlantis today was also connected, migrated south. Isn't that cool? So England and Wales are Avalonian in the sense that they respond, they create a shape-shifting paradigm. Things take different forms right before your very eyes sometimes in the UK. Like you're looking at something and you think you see this and it turns into this. That's shape-shifting. Norway strips you down and freezes you to the core of your bones, whereas Avalonia invites you in and warms those bones by the fire. Let me say that again. Norway strips you down and freezes you to the bone. Norway is nothing but exposed bone with very little skin. It's like, here it is. Avalonia invites you in and warms your bones by the fire. So the duality of these two is about taking you down to what is the truth and the core of your heart without any sugarcoating. And this stone is like, and yet you can become something else. You don't have to wear your grief like a coat. You don't have to be your past. You don't have to live the rest of your life inside of the heartbreak that defined and created you. That's why tonight was so important, because I think a lot of us, when we're struck with major fear, anxiety, depression, whatever it is, and I've had all of those, sometimes I feel like I've had them all in the last week, we start to live inside those feelings. We start to inhabit them and we start to wear them. I have a friend who's always like, I can tell when you're stressed because you wear it. I can see it on your face. I can see it in your eyes. Oh, the music shifted again. Did you hear that? I will go back when we're done and I will cycle back and make a playlist because this music tonight is like haunting a little bit. There's something to it and I want to make sure I capture it. So, started with that shaman journey song. Do people tell you that too? Are you wearing it or is it wearing you? Right? What underneath it all, like when we strip away everything else, what's at your core? And if you're wearing your grief, what can you do to shift? Right? Power versus force. Okay, so Presley Bluestone. Some of the stones at Stonehenge, not all of them, are formed of or primarily of this particular material. Did you know that this is a true story, when you strike two pieces of Presley Bluestone together, I'm not going to be able to do it with this because these are two pieces, this is thulite, but when you strike them together, they ring like a bell and they have an echo. So it's thought that Stonehenge is actually a sound chamber, very much like the pyramids in Egypt on Giza. That Stonehenge is actually a ritual soundscape. And that if you strike the stones, like if one person is striking one stone, you couldn't do it now, but like if one person struck one stone and another person struck another stone at parallel lines to each other, it would create music. Isn't that beautiful? So it doesn't just hold energy, it conducts it, but I mean like an orchestra. Isn't that beautiful? It carries the collective memory, meaning it's transpersonal. This isn't your memory, this is our memory. And I would argue that this isn't your heart, this is our heart. And that's why you can't get off the hook. Our memory, our heart. Yeah. And it isn't just about healing the central nervous system, it's about setting it, tuning it. Can you imagine tuning the central nervous system? Okay, I'm going back in my notes to page 4 because I jumped to the stones, but now I want to talk about the oils. So when you get your notes, again, you're trying to track the class, you kind of go from page 1 to 2 to 3 to 5 to 4 because of the way I did my notes. But it all makes sense somehow. Makes sense to me. Is there anything here I wanted to show you? Oh, this is another map, by the way. These will be in your notes, so don't scramble to try to figure this out. Laurentia, Baltica, Avalonia. And then there's the UK. And here's that Caledonian mountain ridge that I told you about. Yep. And then did you see that? This all is taking place south of the equator. Imagine thinking about Norway, United Kingdom, south of the equator, given where they're positioned today. Isn't that crazy? Oh, you're so lucky to have gone to Stonehenge. Of all the places and times that I've been to the United Kingdom, it's one of the reasons why I have to go back one more time. I have to go to Glastonbury. I have not been to Glastonbury, and I have not been to Stonehenge. And my dear friends, Louis lives there full time, and one of my closest girlfriends, Laurent Blanc, has a store called Whitewood in Glastonbury, and I've been invited 100 times. The timing is just always fucked up. And then my publisher tried to send me, and I couldn't go. So I will get there. I'm only 52. It's on my list. Okay. It's on a long list. Okay, juniper berry. Let's go to the oils. It would be so fun to do a meetup in the United Kingdom. I think it would be actually easy because that way, folks in Canada, folks in Europe, folks in the US, you can manage it. Like it's 11 hours, 13 door to door. You know what I mean? Like we can do this. I have flown 24 hours, which is the longest ever. And that really blows. But, that makes 13 hours of travel look relatively doable. Yes, and I think we should experience the tour, right? And I think the tour is a sound chamber. I do. Among other things. Okay, so juniper berry grows both in Norway and in the United Kingdom. Again, does it really surprise you that some of these herbal medicinals, right, are located in these parallel spaces? Now, the Norwegian juniper berry is a little wilder. It grows in colder temperatures, so it's more resilient. Having said that, and this is Scottish juniper berry in your blend. So this is, even though this smells kind of medicinal, it's not as sharp as it would be if it was Norwegian. The Norwegian is a little harder to access. It's a little bit more expensive. So you can go ahead and, as I always do, draw the figure 8. And then just a little bit at your third eye. And then blessing your actions, and then a little bit at your tops of your feet to bless your steps. Juniper berry is very healing. It's a bridge. This oil, because of the fact that it's probably the only essential oil, I think it is the only essential oil that grows equally well in both regions, which is why we chose it, is a bridge between these ancient worlds, between the Norse world and the Celtic world. A lot of you are bridges between the Norse world and the Celtic world. If you have both of those lineages, how many of you have Norse and Celtic roots? I do not. Some of you do, though. That's big magic. I mean, even the Greeks and the Romans, as much as we're like, oh, we're the best, whatever, we're better, if we were talking to an ancient Greek or an ancient Roman, they'd be like, no, that magic is better. So it's just, in modern times, we tend to think of those civilizations, but no, the Greeks and the Romans, if they were sitting here with me, would have been like, yeah, it's true. They're kind of more magical. Look at that. I love it. Lala Vigil, Circe, Carol does, Lori does, Martha thinks so, Lana probably does. Look at that. Jeanette on both sides. Cynthia, Amy, Jackie has Celtic roots. I have Celtic. I don't have the Norse. Tammy has 95% UK. So I'm speaking to you tonight. I think that's why this class felt so important too. Amy does. Wendy doesn't know, but the reality is you probably have something. These are the ties that really bind us together tonight. More people have Celtic or Norse roots, Norwegian roots in common than they have Greek or Roman. Right? Cynthia has blonde hair and blue eyes, even at 70. Isn't that cool? And like I said, it was amazing to give birth to 2 towheads. And it was because my grandmother, my mom's mom, blonde hair, blue-eyed, Pearl, because the Scottish stuff was super clear in her. And she was, even at 82, she was gray blonde. Never fully went gray. Still had like a little bit of like the gold in her hair. And my daughter is so much Pearl. I almost called her Pearl. I wish I had. So you can have your DNA results done. That will give you access to your lineage, right? Or some people are really good at the genealogy stuff. My mom was really good at it. I haven't really played there because I don't know, it hasn't been my focus, but it was amazing because my ex-husband's mother's side is pure Irish. And she's passed away now, but she knew exactly, I'm trying to think of where she was from in Ireland. Oh, it's on the tip of my tongue. It's not Galway. Anyway, she knew exactly what place in Ireland she was from. She had gone back. She had done all the things. And so then when Zoe, and Nick too has blue eyes, but they're more like blue-green like my dad's. Zoe has just Irish eyes. And blonde as the day is long. She's gotten a little bit more like medium brown as she's gotten older, and then I take her to have her highlights done because she's meant to be blonde, and her blue eyes just zing through you, right? But that wouldn't have happened without that little bit of Scottish ancestry in my line being triggered, right? Okay, so and then oak moss. So back to juniper berry. Juniper berry is called fortress medicine. And oak moss, the interesting connection between them is they're both considered to be old forest medicines. Oak moss is about the continuity, the keeping of your ancestral line, keeping of the heritage, the wisdom, the magic, knowing where your line is from, honoring the wisdom and the information that comes through your lineage. The medicine of oak moss and juniper that connects them is they both clear your energy, they sharpen your energy, and they guard your energy. Clear, sharpen, guard. So what do you need to see? And then what I love about the stones is they do the exact same thing. Thulite is like, I don't care. You're gonna look at this, and I'm not gonna make it easy, and I'm not gonna tell you a story, and I'm not gonna dumb it down or water it down. I'm gonna give it to you just like it is, and you're gonna take it. Like Thulite, I swear to God. And because it communicates so clearly with you, it teaches you then, and this is why I always say it's the throat chakra stone of the heart, it teaches you to communicate clearly too. It's like it takes the fear out of the equation. And it just like Norway is a dry bone, so is Thulite, right? It is hard ass. It's stone medicine. Thulite is not. Most heart chakra stones are like, oh, how do you feel? Is it okay? Is this too much? Tell me. Is it overwhelming? It's Thulite's like, fuck that. Shield, right? Shield maiden energy in Thulite. And oak moss and juniper berry are the same way. They clear, sharpen, guard. If juniper is the blade, this is what I put in your notes. If juniper is the blade, think Ace of Swords energy, right? Oak moss is the root, right? Oak moss is the sheath, right? There are two parts of the same whole, I guess is what I'm saying. For me, juniper has night energy, raging into battle. Hey, baby boy, what you doing? Did you smell it? Did you like it? He has pasta sauce on his arm because I made pasta today, and Rachel and I were eating together before class, and a little piece might have dropped on his arm. So juniper has night energy, preparing for battle, charging it. Remember, the knight in tarot is sort of like the soldier going into battle in his 20s, like, let me at it, right? The king is not charging into battle. The king is telling the knight to go into battle. The knight is like, let me at it. That's juniper berry. Oak moss, I wrote in the notes, remembers the warrior after the warrior has gone to Valhalla. So oak moss, if juniper berry is the knight charging into battle, oak moss are the last rites for the fallen warrior, right? Think of what oak moss is. The oak moss is what's left in the forest. It's like the threshold of decay. To the point that we've been talking about tonight, right? Like what's left, what will be remembered. Is there beauty in the passing? Is there something beautiful that's left behind, right? Is there a smell of what was versus juniper berry, which is the smell of what is, which I think is beautiful. So I want you to take a couple of deep inhales, because I think that almost more than any other blend we've done this year, I think this oak moss juniper berry medicine tonight is like the medicine of the moment. I really do. All at once, it's take charge, face the truth, deal with it. Too bad, so sad, like buckle up. And then it's like, and remember that what will remain is the wisdom that you cultivated and the love that you shared. So face the truth so that you can live in transparency. Mm. Oak moss, by the way, is in wolf. It's one of the reasons. And then I want to speak to Cynthia, and also, by the way, Amy. My mom had two different color eyes. One was bright green, and one was brown. And it was hard to stare at her. Like I was so many times looking into her eyes. Even when she died, her eyes were open, and it's like you would get lost because it's like, are you looking at this one or are you looking at that one? They're so different. Oak moss, when I started making perfumes for Sage Goddess, was hard to find. This was like 15 years ago. And a friend of mine was like, oh, that's because they don't use it in the US. And I was like, what do you mean they don't use it in the US? And she's like, oh, no. Oak moss is used in men's cologne, men's perfumery, right? And it is. If you look at like the mainstream colognes like Chanel and Ralph Lauren and all of those, like they would never put oak moss. That hasn't really changed. So when you ever go into the, I love going into perfume departments of department stores. I don't buy anything, but I like to walk through it. And I don't like the women's department. Even now, like I'll walk through and it smells like candy and bullshit kind of. You know what I mean? Like it just smells like fake unicorn sunshine rainbow cotton candy. And then I walk through the men's department and I'm like, I'll take that and that and that. And it's all oak moss. It's 5:55. Abundance flows to me and you from sources seen and unseen with ease. Amen, and so it is. I always say that prayer for us when I catch 5:55. And thank you to Tammy Pennington for that reminder. So Cynthia said that she could not get over her grief. She had to go through it to begin the healing process after the death of her son, and nothing else would help. That is spoken, Cynthia, from such a place of wisdom that I'm truly grateful for. There's no way out of any of this. I think if there's some, again, you know me, like my whole life is a story of metaphors, right? So I'm so grateful to those of you who share your life experiences that are challenging to share about, right? But you do it with such candor and such tenderness, right? For those of us who haven't been through those experiences, but we've had our own experiences of loss and grief. I'll tell you, I guess I thought through my process there was a way out. And I tried to find it. You know what I mean? Like, you know how you run over here and you run over there, maybe up here, maybe down there, maybe if I go this way, it'll be a shortcut. And then you realize, no, it's the long road. It's a long road. But I think in the Norse traditions, they would see that as the shield maiden, right? Yeah. So thank you. Thank you for that, because it's wisdom born of grief that serves such a deep purpose for the rest of us who have to go through our own struggles and challenges, right? Yeah. And I don't know, after my mom's death, which is such a different loss, like such a different, mine was way more natural, right? Like you expect to lose a parent, but like I would have dreams where I escaped it, you know? And then I would wake up and go, oh, that was a dream. I didn't escape anything. Yeah, Christina said I had to lose my best friend to learn how to grieve in a healthy manner. The Norse were incredibly, and Jeanette might be able to speak to this too. The Norse were incredibly skilled at ritual around grief and loss. One of the things, if you watch Vikings, I didn't know that, Bonnie, by the way, about your mom. One of the things that I loved most about Vikings was the ritual, right? And you got to have a unsensitive stomach, because like it's you know, when they would do ritual, there was sacrifice, animal sacrifice, and then the blood, right? And the, like, I mean, but that's true and accurate. And intense. But they, through ritual, right? That's how they made meaning. And everything was honored, and everything was marked, and everything was, and the body was marked, and the space was marked, and the, everything. I see you, Jeanette, too. Isn't it interesting that losing your soul sister affected you almost as much as losing your mom? But chords, you know what I mean? A chord's a chord. And we can talk at length, right? And I think this is something that we can, again, we can learn from these traditions. Like, sometimes we lose someone and they don't die, which is really weird for the soul. Like, but wait, that person is still walking and talking. Loss and grief to the central nervous system sometimes are differentiated because it's like, but they're still alive. Like, circle that square for me, right? Right? Yeah, Jeanette said they grieved as a community and with very elaborate ceremonies, like days. You know what I mean? And travel, like, and always led by the seer and the shaman, and and the people in charge, right? And it was, and the drumming. So I do want to drum before I close with you. I'm not done with you yet, by the way. Is it weird that we have videos and pictures now of those who have passed? I don't know. I have friends in different countries and who honor different traditions, and like, in some traditions pictures are not celebrated because it's like, are you capturing the soul, and is it okay to have that after someone's passed? And then, but my experience of the spirit world is that they see it, they appreciate it, right? Like, keeping their pictures, keeping their memory alive. Karina said her puppy is loving this oil blend. Debbie said, I had to say goodbye to a very dear friend this year after she ghosted me. I'm still healing. Those are tough ones when they just, what I'm going to say, and I'm putting this together for myself, so you can tell me if it makes sense to you. We talk about like vibing on and vibing off and ghosting and all these things. We have these semantics for this right now in our culture, like, oh, they ghosted me or whatever. I think it's shape-shifting. I think some people like change and it's subtle, and they can still be in their world while their soul evolves to some different plane of conscious awareness. But some people can't. Like, they have to almost disappear. So they still are inhabiting the same realm technically, but they can't inhabit in the same form, and so we call it ghosting, right? But if you think about like the root of that word, it's kind of that, right? Like, they become a ghost to you. They still exist in a different form. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see you. So, because when I say, oh, somebody vibes off, and it's like, yeah, but I mean, that doesn't really explain it. But if you say, oh, they kind of shapeshifted, they became something else. It's like, oh, yeah. It's true. It's true. There's levels of wisdom that far surpass my own awareness and understanding. And I think a big part of my growth has been that, I may not understand. I may not ever understand, but I have to accept, and that it could actually be in service to my higher good, which is a real trip. That's where your soul has to take over. That's where the mind and the heart kind of go, I don't get that. You know what I mean? But your soul is like, I do think it's a frequency difference. I do. I do think it's a frequency difference. Can I switch gears with you now just for a few minutes to kind of drop you into something different? went through my drums and I'm like, what's the most Viking-y, just not a word, what's the most Viking-y drum I have? And this is not an animal skin, it's a printed drum, but it looks kind of Viking-y to me. I don't know if it looks Viking-y to you. So I'm going to shift us. And then you may actually, through this little, I'm reading my little, I don't have a name for these yet. These little like soul poems. They're kind of like guided visualizations that I read. I think you may experience, if the words didn't land, like if this isn't quite making sense, or if it is, but you're like, I'm struggling to integrate it, maybe this part of the experience will drop you in, you know? This room is Orb Central. I was working with one of my mentorship students Friday. She was like, Athena, it's really hard to listen to you because there's like an orb Disneyland. And I'm like, I know. And it doesn't happen in any other room. But if you think about it, like, I would say 80% of my ayahuasca journeys have been in this room. And like every medicine person I know has been in this room doing work. And so it's like, it's just a lot in here for better or worse. And the animals, I'm telling you, I don't know if you saw my Facebook yesterday, but you know, Sundays are the one day I don't work. It's very much my spirit day, just to have no commitments other than myself, whatever I want to do, whatever I want to, or do nothing. And then I couldn't find Paxton, and I came in and he was laying right where I'm sitting right now, like this. He was looking at me and I'm like, do you want to teach? The animals are magnetized to this room. Yay. Well, if you're here right now, it's meant to be. And if you're watching the replay, I hope you really enjoy this little segue. I'm going to spread my notes out so I don't have to turn pages. So let me spread this out so I can just read. Did you hear the music change again? I'm totally making a playlist for you right after we're done. None of the songs that are playing tonight are anything I've ever heard. It's fucking crazy. This is not a playlist. And it totally feels like, I'll add the Vikings theme song to tonight's playlist too. Because if you haven't heard that, that will stop you in your tracks. Okay, that's good. Did you hear the music? So cool. So I want you to breathe in through your nose and breathe out through your mouth. That creates the least tension in your heart. So now with me, just for a few minutes, I want you to cross the line between the north and the south. The north is not soft. It's not here to seduce you. It receives, it holds, it freezes, it buries. want you to imagine now, it's not hard for some of you given where you are, the coldest of air on your skin. It's not painful, this chill, it's clarifying. Some aspect of your ancient self standing at the edge of a fjord. Rocks rising behind you, above you, around you. The water opens before you, and the mist, voices of the ancestors, move slowly around you. And they reveal only what's ready for you to see. They invite you to say, either silently now or out loud, I come without armor. I come without a false name. I come in truth. I come to be known. And you can feel the land respond to you, not with words, but with weight. Bring your awareness now to the soles of your feet. Pure contact with the earth. Bring your awareness to your bones, the ancient stones beneath your feet that are older than stories and older than any of our gods. This land beneath your feet right now has seen the ice crush a mountain in half, has seen the seas rise and melt and retreat, has seen blood spilled and sacrificed. It has outlived every life. And let your breath drop you into your hips, into your legs. It whispers to you, you belong to this earth that made you, and to it you will return. Feel the gravity take you now. You're not held up, you're held down. But you're lifted by the winds. Winds of truth are honest with you. And this is the question that the North asks every soul. What do you do when comfort leaves you? You're not meant to answer that question. Not with words. Maybe with images, feelings that strip you naked. The moments you stayed too long. The moments you fled before the work was finished. The moments you endured with so much strength, but without any praise. This land is not judging you, but it notes whether you're still standing. And breathe here and tell yourself, remind yourself, I do not need ease to stand in truth. As the mist gathers around the tops of the mountains, you feel a presence, not faces, but ancestors. And not just blood ancestors, but pathway ancestors. The ones before you who walked forward without certainty. They're not asking you what you want. They're asking you, how will you meet what comes for you? Let one word arise for you now from this space. Don't overthink. This doesn't have to be an aspirational word. It just has to be accurate. Steadiness, loyalty, faithfulness, tenderness, silence, love. Hold this word in your chest and remind yourself, this is how you meet fate. This is your offering to the land. And imagine the ground moving beneath your feet as it has in this exact place. It's a slow shift. And from the earth, something reveals itself to you now. Maybe it's a stone. Don't choose it, just notice it. Let it choose you. Whatever is coming forward for you, it's for remembering who you are when you are tested as you will be. And remind yourself that you know how to carry what endures. The North does not require promises or offerings to the gods. It only requires one thing: an oath of truth to yourself. So say to yourself now, I will not abandon myself when the path is hard. I will meet my life with honor, not illusion. If your eyes are open, stay where you are. If they're not yet, when you open them. You don't have to leave this space. You can carry it with you. This space did not show itself to you to promise you safety. It promises you truth. And truth, when met with bravery, becomes belonging. In through the nose, out through the mouth. I didn't stop the music. It stopped itself. I would call that the playlist that made itself and also stopped itself. I put my dog to sleep. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So I will finish the playlist with that song. That will be it. I'm going back to when I make this, right when I'm done with you, because whatever that magic that was, I don't want to lose it. I'm going to start with Shaman Journey, and I'm just going to make a playlist of what I would imagine. It's probably about 10 songs, and then I will make sure it's public and share the link in your Facebook group on your classroom page. Isn't that cool? I'm so glad you were there. Yeah, your words are beautiful and chilling, right? But as it would be for a journey here, right? Like rejuvenate, painful, breathtaking, not in a good way, right? That's okay. She wolf. Karina said my words onward. So accurate, right? For the moment, with reverence, humbleness, humility, deep faith. And the stone you received was apatite. Remember, apatite was used by the ancient Greeks for truth, right? Because they believed if you were holding apatite and somebody was lying to you, it would give you the gift of discernment. It's totally, even though apatite isn't from this region, stone medicine wise, it completely makes sense that that's what would have emerged for you tonight. I'm so glad you were here. Thank you for coming to this experience and trusting me with it. And like I said, it has been one of the most intellectually expansive experiences of my teaching career, because it's daunting. It's encyclopedic, right? To go from like, hey, here's where our planet started 4.5 billion years ago. And then here's X marks the spot where we are now. But the whole year has felt like, this is the 11th month of 12. The whole year has felt like we got right to where we needed to be. And enough of a thread was pulled through that you can see how things, how synchronistic and truly magical, right, the evolution of this planet has been. And then, next month at the end of the last class, I think it would be fun to like imagine the future. Right? What would the next few million, billion years look like? And, what will they be, when some future teachers holding up maps of where we are now. You know what I mean? It's interesting to think about. So Martha said she feels like her word would be let go. I do think there's a surrender energy that's really speaking to us. Yeah, Jeanette said strengthened and supported, and then petrified wood, which again, that the energy of that material makes a lot of sense. Martha said, I was so out, I will have to see what dreams I have tonight. But I'm glad you're relaxed. And you know, when you're really relaxed, the chances of getting into better REM sleep are improved. So, and thank you for that. Dark Sister said, thank you so much. I'm yawning, completely relaxed. My word was move. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah. Gratitude. Yeah, he's out. He's out. I can't believe Smudge is in here, but they give each other a lot of personal space. I always say it's not COVID times anymore, but my animals do a lot of social distancing. They just don't like each other very much. They don't fight, but they like if Smudge is like this, Paxton will go all the way around him. Like Paxton wanted to come and see me. I was getting out of the shower, and like Smudge was sitting on the bath rug, and Paxton goes, I mean, Paxton's 85 pounds. He could sit on Smudge and take him out, right? But he just goes all the way around him. It's very respectful. So I'm glad you enjoyed this too. Thank you, Jeanette, by the way, because Jeanette has, like I said, wisdom about this place space and history. So it was cool to have you here too. So thanks, you guys. So tomorrow, if you are in Living Sanctuary, which is my other class that continues past February, we're doing Elder Council tomorrow night, which I'm really excited about. And then I depart Wednesday, and then I'm live, like I said, on Shop LC Thursday, Friday, 10 to 12 Thursday Central Time, 6 to 8 Friday Central Time, and then I'm back. So I hope you can join me live. It'd be really great to have you there. Elder Council. And tomorrow, so there were new tools for tomorrow. And it's okay if you don't have them. Like it's one tool set for the year. I used to do a different set of tools for every Elder Council, and honestly, that's just a lot of work. So now I do an annual set, and the new guidance for Elder Council, tomorrow's the first of the 4 sessions of this year where I'm doing this work. I was told, because Elder Council is super guided, that each one of our sessions needs to be a clearing with the ancestors. So my intention is that you're going to bring everything to Elder Council tomorrow that you need to clear from the last 3 months. So we're going to do a quarterly clearing ceremony, and we're going to clear to each direction. So we're going to clear, I think we're doing clearing to earth tomorrow because we're still in winter. And then in the spring, we'll do clearing to air. In the summer, we'll do clearing to fire. And then in the fall, we'll do clearing to water. So we're clearing to earth tomorrow. So it's really going to help you feel grounded, I think stabilized, anchored. It'll be a nice sort of segue from tonight's class, because this is a very earth-based class, I would say. So if you have your tools, that's great. If you don't worry. I would say bring a stone, like something that you can use to clear to earth for tomorrow. And then I'll see you at 4:00 tomorrow. Love it. And then if you're not part of Living Sanctuary, don't worry. You can always join just for Elder Council. A couple people did join just for Elder Council. It's one of my community's favorite meditations because it's where we invite all the ancestors and the spirit guides and ascended masters and everybody to be present. But so if I don't see you tomorrow, hopefully I'll see you later this week. I love you guys. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Circe, as always, for everything. Have a great rest of your evening. If you want the tools for Indonesia, Circe has put the link up for you in the feed. And so next month we are working with Patchouli Oud Ilang Ilang. And it looks like this. And it's heavenly. Such a counterbalance to tonight, because these are all sort of warm water subtropical oils. And then the stones for next month, pink thulite, or not pink thulite, pink natrolite. And then, which is by the way, it's an alternative pain relieving stone, which we're going to talk about, and blue amber. And so you can get just the perfume for tonight or for next month at sagegoddess.com. Your code is Empress for 25% off. And that's all I have to tell you. Have a great rest of your night. We'll see you soon. Love you guys.